The war was very impactful. For one thing, it helped develop technology. It also took money. It also took money to make the technology, of course. If you think about it with logical sense, they lost money during the war, taking people out of the economy to fight. So pretty much, someone's running a business, they take them out of the economy. Then, paying those people to move to the battlefield. And then while they're fighting, also paying them. Then, the money that they might actually have to do to get the body back, or maybe the family had to pay for the body. Granted, the bodies might be eaten by rats because they were all over the trenches. The nations might have gotten some money from the funeral costs of the war. If, let's say, a family wanted to mourn the loss of one of the guys in the family, they could just pay the funeral costs, and the government got some money. But there were also some important nations, or ways nations would fight. There were certain ways. A nation like Belgium played a pivotal role in the war. It was right between Germany and France. It had a decent military size of 43,000 active members and 115,000 in reserve. Belgium's role in the war helped Europe a lot. It didn't join either alliance. They just played gatekeepers. For Germany to attack France, they would need to go through Belgium. For France to attack Germany, they would need to go through Belgium. They held their own. They kept their neighbors at bay and didn't have their country turned into a battlefield. Granted, some space was taken, but after the war, it was restored. Unlike Belgium, Serbia was mostly bloodthirsty. Even before the war, they were violent. In 1903, the people killed the king and queen. It was almost like anarchy. During the war, they did not let up their ways. They actually kind of started the war by killing Franz Ferdinand. Once they realized their mistakes, they pitched in the effort and wasn't some victim who just sat on the sidelines. They won a lot of battles with Greece, Bulgaria, and Montenegro. Bulgaria tried to fight Siberia but lost. Treaties also really helped nations. Treaties stopped the war. It made some resolutions and stopped fighting. Some countries didn't agree with that, but most countries realized that if they didn't stop, no one could fight because no one would be left to fight due to how much war was going on.
Life of a soldier in the First World War. Life of a soldier in the First World War was not pleasant, on all sides. But German soldiers probably had the best conditions of the war, although the difference was very minor. The soldiers' time was half in the trench and half rest, or in reserves. Once deployed in a trench, it was awful. Extremely awful. Troops would usually, in rainy seasons, they would wade through ankle or even knee-deep mud. That's pretty crazy. If you were lucky, your trench would have like a pump and, some sort of platform. The mud's down here and your platform's up here. But wading through this mud, it would cause trench foot. And trench foot would lead to some nasty side effects. Sometimes, if it was bad enough, soldiers would be immobilized from the sheer pain of walking on their feet because they had trench foot. Sleeping spaces were rare. Although more common in German trenches. They were more common in German trenches. Soldiers, they would sleep pretty much anywhere. They would sleep on the floor, the parapets, the parapets, and then the top of the trenches up here. And then, they'd pretty much just sleep anywhere. Wherever you could fit. And then soldiers, they need to be, slightly hunched over, depending on how tall they are. They don't want to have their, they're walking, their head's right here, and the top of the trench is right here, because if they stick their head out, they're going to get shot by a sniper. And, that's not good. Officers had it better than normal soldiers, what you could call better. They had their own sleeping quarters, and they would get increased rations. Death was everywhere. Bodies would remain in no man's land or sometimes even a foot away from your trench. And they would reek. Some some battalions would have cats to ward off, big mice and such from crawling around their trench. The sanitation was very poor, especially early war. People, they couldn't bathe, they didn't have proper restrooms, so, they might just take a leak in the trench, which is a big no-no, especially since they're sleeping there. That's pretty nasty.
That's not fun.
They'd obviously get sick from this because they're sleeping, right next to some waste, and since there is waste, they get waste-related illness, cholera, etc. So yeah, the soldier's life was not the best. It was truly awful on both sides, Central Power and Triple Entente.